So without any further ado, I wanted to invite our first speaker on today, Lindsay Bayley. She's primarily focused on equitable transportation and parking policy, and she's managed a variety of community planning projects and award-winning downtown master plans for Illinois, the second largest city, to the UIC's multimodal transportation plan. So I'll let Lindsay I'll let Lindsay continue with her introduction, but I'm really looking forward to having her perspective as one of your peers in order to kick off our today's presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me here. So I'm going to share my slides, and I'm hoping that everyone can see this now, but as Bill mentioned, my name is Lindsay Bayley. I'm the Safe and Complete Streets Program Lead for the Regional MPO here in Chicago. And I'm going to give an overview of our experience here at the MPO, developing a regional sidewalk inventory, and then how we're going to be taking that to the next steps. I'll touch a little bit on what is required under the ADA, but I believe that Chris Bell will be giving more information on that, so I will be brief. And I'll talk about some of the early projects that we worked on that led to the creation of the sidewalk inventory, how we developed it, and where we are taking it. So the ADA is a very broad bill that was signed into law in 1990 to provide protections for people with disabilities. And today, I just wanted to focus on Title II, which deals with state and local governments, and we also refer to as generally public entities. And I think the broad premise of the law is that when we can integrate everyone into our society, it not only benefits people with disabilities, but society as a whole. So, you know, curb cuts made it easier for people wheeling their luggage or pushing strollers, or me trying to get my heavy cargo bike up to a bike rack. So when we talk about Title II and what municipal entities have to do, or the public entities in general, all of them are like all the ones that provide programs and services to a community, like their city hall, courthouses, police, fire, EMS. That regardless of their size, they must all conduct self-evaluations to identify barriers to access that are inconsistent with Title II. And they also need to provide notice about ADA requirements. And then for our public entities with 50 or more employees, they must also have a designated ADA coordinator, establish the grievance procedure, and develop and implement a transition plan. Like I said, all the things that were identified in the self-evaluation plan, how to comply with the law, which would include a timeline. So I mentioned that we had worked at CMAP on many different projects, but when I first started here, I was getting introduced to modeling that we do at CMAP, and I learned that the closest thing that we had to analyzing walkability in our region was something called the pedestrian environment factor, and that was basically an intersection density rating. And so I really wanted to take that further. So part of our research for our Onto 2050 long range plan, I conducted an assessment of walkability for the entire 7-county region, and it's 284 municipalities. And I primarily used the Jeff Speck's assessment that says that walkability is achieved when 4 conditions are met: that the walk is useful, so a proper reason for walking, the walk is safe and feels safe, and it's comfortable and interesting. Our analysis, as many are, was limited by the data that we had available. And so we had a close partner that we work on in the area who basically criticized our work and said, sure, this is great, but do you even know where you have sidewalks? And how can you say if this is walkable if we don't have data on sidewalks? So we agreed with them that this was a data set that was sorely needed, and we set out to generate that data. We used high quality aerial imagery from Nearmap and then we broke up our public road file into small township level data. And then we had a team, I think there were about 10 people working on this, half interns, full-time dedicated to it, to use a GIS script so we could easily code the roadways while looking at the high quality aerial imagery to assess if the roadways had sidewalks on one side, both sides, or not at all. And then we also looked and assessed if there was some sort of barrier between moving traffic and the sidewalk. And so we coded over 30,000 miles of roadways, and this is an interactive map that is available on our website as well as the data behind it. So that was a primary focus of the work that we did. We wanted something that our communities would be able to use on their own and take to their specific community so they could identify where there were gaps in their sidewalk level. So the dark areas on this map show where we've got sidewalk coverage on both sides of the street. There's purple lines that indicate where there is only a sidewalk on one side. And then the pinkish lines are rural areas where there are no sidewalks at all. And then I was pleased when we lined this map up with my original assessment of walkability. It did line up very well. So I think that it showed that our initial analysis, even without the data, was pretty good. So our friends at the Metropolitan Planning Council, the ones who told us we needed the sidewalk data, they were happy that we did that, but they weren't done pushing us to do better. So they pointed out that our inventory does not cover accessibility. So they pointed out that our inventory did not cover accessibility data. And obviously we were limited in what we could accomplish looking at 30,000 miles of roadway. So they created a report looking at the regional progress, which is very minimal, on ADA transition plans. At the time of their study of our 250 communities, only about 10% had a transition plan in place. So that means we've got a lot of room to improve and lots of work for us at CMAP to do together to improve the accessibility and the conditions overall for people with disabilities. And so one of our partners was awarded a $2 million grant from the National Science Foundation to use crowdsourced data with Project Sidewalk out of the University of Washington. And so they are going to help us take our sidewalk data to the next level with by using just Google Street View and many people who can go in and just, it's almost like a gamification of the data where you, oh, I want to do more sidewalk inventory, and it tells you how to put in all the different pieces of how much of a landing space you need. And if it looks like the sidewalk's crumbling, how to add that in. And so we're really excited about how that is going. And this is a sample of a specific neighborhood where we had a team go through and do an inventory of the accessibility data at this location. And we've talked about like where we've come from and what some of the requirements under ADA are. And we also have been looking into all the economic benefits that would come from improving accessibility. So at CMAP, we have created an ADA program and a new director of that program. And we are providing direct technical assistance to communities to develop transition plans. And we've been holding regular training sessions for municipalities and advocates to give them a better understanding of the requirements and how to implement the requirements. We are also looking at improving upon our outreach with municipalities, stakeholder organizations, and developing toolbox resources so that we can really help push the needle and get more of our municipalities into compliance to getting their self-evaluations and transition plans completed. And yeah, so we are excited about the work that is coming along and hoping that even though our data is not complete at this point, we also would like to see other ways that we can maintain it and update it and incorporate more of the accessibility side into this data so that we can make it publicly available and possibly look at using other AI technology to visually assess progress since the last time we did it. Because right now we have a static image of 2018 data. So it's already quite outdated. But that is all I have.